One of the most widely used and the most powerful functions in Excel. Whether you're an expert trying to optimize your workflow or a beginner looking to navigate the spreadsheet jungle, today we're tackling a big one. Hi, this is 𝗨𝗡𝗟𝗘𝗥. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. I assure you, even if you're a beginner at Excel, these few minutes will help you take your Excel game to the next level. Even if you're a pro, I'm sure you will learn something new. So which lookup function should you use in Excel? VLookup, HLookup, lookup, or the new kid on the block, XLookup? Which one is the best for you? Which one works in your Excel version? Stick around as we dive into this Excel mystery and come out with answers on the other side. Let's get started. So, what is a lookup? Think about your contact list on your phone. You have all your friends' names and their phone numbers stored. Now, when you want to call your friend, let's say Jake, you don't need to remember his number. You just look up for Jake's name in your contact list and the phone shows you his number. That's exactly what a lookup function does. It finds the information you're looking for in a place where lots of information is stored. In computer terms, a lookup function is used in a similar way. It takes one piece of information, like Jake's name, and finds the corresponding piece of information, like Jake's phone number, in a stored list or a database. Let's start off with the most popular lookup function in Excel, VLookup. It works with Excel 2007 and any versions after that. The V in VLookup refers to vertical, therefore it works with vertical data. Let's look at the formula explanation. It starts off with the lookup value, which is the information that you need to look up. So in our case, that would be Jake. Then we have to put in the table array. That is the table where we can find the information and the result. So in our case, that would be the contact list. Then we have to put in the column index number. So let's say our data has the name and the phone number. So the first column is the name, the second is the phone number. So we have to put in second, as the result is in the second column. Then we have to put in the range lookup. We can put in true or false. True for an approximate match and false for an exact match. Let's start with an example of VLookup. Here I have a company called XYZ Limited, which sells laptops, pens, books, shirts, etc. The prices of all the items are mentioned over here. So what we want is simply to get the price of any item over here. Let's say a laptop, pen, book, or a shirt. I want this price to come on F4. This is a simple example. When you use it in real life, you can use it for thousands, tens of thousands of rows. So it can come in real handy. So let's get started. So let's say I want the price of the shirt to come up here. I'll just put in the formula equal to VLookup. Then I'll first select the lookup value. So in this case, the lookup value is in E4. Okay, then I'll select the table. This is the table. Make sure you used fixed referencing for this. Fixed references are used with a $sign. When the $sign is put in front of the alphabet, it fixes the column. And when the $sign is put in front of the row, it fixes the row. So we want both of them fixed in this case. So I'll use $sign in both of them. You can also use the name range in this case. And then the column index number from which I want the result. So this is 1, 2, 3. So we want the third one. Okay. And then we want an exact match, not an approximate match. So we'll use false. You can use tab to select the options that are coming up. So let's see if we get the correct value. A shirt, $12.50. Shirt, $12.50. Okay. So let's change it to a laptop or a pen or a book. So okay, this seems to be working perfectly. And if you want to drag this and have a bigger list, we can just drag the formula and it will work perfectly. Now this is only working perfectly because we have a fixed range. So let's see, if we don't use a fixed range, then what will happen? I start to get an error. What's the cause of this error? If you look closely, this has selected a different table from what I intended it to. This is because when you drag the formula, it keeps changing the table name as well, which is not our intention. We only want it to change the lookup value and not the table. So we fix the table. So okay, that's a basic example for a lookup. Now let's move on to VLookup with true or an approximate match. Okay, now moving on to an example of VLookup with an approximate match. So this time we'll try to use true. So again, we have an example of XYZ Limited, which gives quantity discounts to its customers. So let's say if anyone is buying anything below 9 quantities, so he'll get a price of 50 per unit, and anything between 10 and 50, 45, anything between 50 and 100, 35, anything between 100 and 200, 30, and so on. So let's say in this case we are buying 10 units. So let's first try to use the formula with an exact match, and then okay, so this is the table and we need the second column as the result, so 2. And first let's try the exact match, that is false, and of course we also want to make this fixed as a general practice. You can also use the shortcut F4 to make this a fixed reference instead of variable. Yeah, we're getting the correct answer, but let's now try to change it to 9. We get an error. Maybe 25, no, 50. Okay, so we are only getting a response when we have an exact match over here. Let's try to change this to true. Okay, for 50 this is correct. Let's say for 11 we are getting 45. Yes, that is correct. Let's say 90, we should get 35. Yes, this is also correct. So this is one of the examples where VLookup can be used with an approximate match. So this can be also pretty useful at times. Okay, so the limitations of VLookup. The limitations of VLookup are you always have to have the lookup in the first column of your selection. Let's say the quantity was over here and the price was over here. Then you probably have to switch them before you can start using VLookup. So that's a major problem. And the second problem is it is a bit inefficient. If you're using the latest one, let's say XLookup and VLookup as a comparison, the efficiency on both of them are quite different. So if you have quite a large file with a lot of rows, then you will definitely notice the difference. If it's a small database, then it's not a problem. Let's move on to HLookup. This is a sibling to VLookup. This was also introduced with Excel 2007 and works in any versions on and after that. The H in HLookup refers to horizontal, so it works with horizontal data. Let's look at the formula explanation. This is quite similar to VLookup. So first we have the lookup value, in our case that would be Jake, then the table array, in our case that would be the contact list, then the row index number. So instead of the column index number in VLookup, we have the row index number in HLookup. So that would be 2. And finally, we have to select if it's true or false. True for approximate match and false for an exact match. Okay, let's look at an example of HLookup now. So like I said, HLookup is just an horizontal lookup. So earlier we all had our tables in a vertical format. Now here we have a table which is in horizontal format. So the working of HLookup and VLookup is basically the same, but there's only a difference of one being vertical and the other being horizontal. So let's try to get this to work. So HLookup, the lookup value for me is C11. Okay, and we have to select the table. So this is our table, and okay, and we want 1, 2, and 3. The row index number. Instead of the column index number on VLookup, we have the row index number on HLookup. So 3. And we want a exact match, and you can also get an approximate match over here just like VLookup. So we want an exact match. Yeah, perfect. And we also want to make this a fixed reference using F4. Okay, so perfect. So if we try to change these, we'll get all the correct responses. Okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail as we have covered all the variances of this in VLookup as well. So it's basically the same. You just have to use it for a horizontal table. For the vertical table, you can use a VLookup. Okay, moving on to lookup. This was also introduced with VLookup and HLookup from Excel 2007 and works on any versions on and after that. This can be used for vertical as well as horizontal data. Let's look at the formula explanation. First, it has the lookup value. In our case, that would be Jake. The lookup vector. This means the row or the column which has the lookup value. And then the result vector. The row or the column which has the result. Okay, so now let's look at lookup. Now, what's the difference between lookup, VLookup and HLookup? So lookup can be used for horizontal tables as well as a vertical table. So this should be probably more popular than a VLookup, HLookup, right? But that is not true. The problem with lookup is it always gives you an approximate match and not an exact match. So therefore, this is one of the least popular lookup formulas used in Excel. Pretty rarely used, and quite a few number of people are known to actually use it. So let's have a look at it. Lookup. We'll select the lookup value, then the lookup vector. So the row or the column which has the value that you want to look up, and then the result vector. The result vector is the price. So we'll select this. Always keep in mind that the length of the row or the columns in the lookup and the result vector should always be the same. This is true for VLookup, HLookup, lookup, as well as the latest function that we're going to see, XLookup. So always keep this in mind. This is always a cause for error. So let's use F4 and fix this. And okay, we're getting the correct result. Okay, so let's try to use it again with a vertical table. Lookup, the lookup value, which is F7 in this case, and the lookup vector. So here, let's say we don't have the lookup vector over here, but we have it in column C. So that is not an issue for lookup. If we had to use it with VLookup, that would have been a problem. So let's select the lookup vector and the result vector. Okay, and a fixed referencing again. And let's see if we get the correct result. Yes. Okay. So again, it's giving us a perfect result. Okay. But keep in mind, whenever you're using a lookup, it will always give you an approximate match. So it is not really highly suggested. Let's say if you want an exact match, always go with a VLookup or an HLookup. And if you have the latest versions, then go with the XLookup. Okay, we finally arrive at XLookup, the new kid on the block. This function was introduced with Excel 365 and works with Excel 2021 as well. XLookup is like a Swiss Army knife. It works both horizontally and vertically. Has quite a few more advantages as well. Let's look at the formula explanation. First, we have the lookup value. In our case, that would be Jake. Then the lookup array. That would be the row or the column with the name. Then the return array, the row or the column with the numbers. Then we have a few optional inputs. If not found, match mode and search mode. Let's look at them as well. First, we have if not found. So if you don't find the lookup value in the lookup array, you would simply get an NA by default. If you put in something over here, let's say not found, then instead of an NA, you'll get not found. The second is match mode. By default, this is set to 0, which is an exact match. The other options would be -1, that is the exact match or the next smaller value. +1, basically 1, that is the exact match or the next larger value. And 2 can be used as a wildcard character match. So let's say if you want to search just one word in a list of a few lines. So let's say if we want the word Jake, but it appears in a sentence, then we can use 2. to search for a wildcard character match. And finally, we have the search mode. This can be used as 1 for the default search, that is from the first to the last, then -1, which can search from the last to the first. And then we have a binary search. This is only to be used with ascending or descending sorted data. So a binary search would basically give you the position of the lookup in the data. Let's move on to the example. So let's look at an example of XLookup. So this is the latest function that Excel has introduced in its Excel 365 and Excel 2021. This has all the benefits and none of the limitations of the earlier versions. So XLookup can look at the lookup array and the return array separately. It can give you an approximate match as well as an exact match, and it has a lot of other features as well. So the only problem is you can only use it if you have the latest version of Excel. So let's first try to see the example. So the lookup value over here is F7, okay, and the lookup array is this, okay, and the return array is this, okay. If you see the other three, these are all optional if not found. You can put a value over here. If you let's say if you put in a value which is not present in the table, what is the response that you want? By default, it will give you an NA response, and I want not found. So let's put that over here. The match mode by default is always false. You can put it as true, and in this case you will probably have to use 0, 1, -1, and the search mode. I think we've already discussed this in detail in the earlier portion, so let's just try to use this instead. Okay, so yeah, seems to be giving us the correct result. Yes. Another huge advantage of this is much more efficient than VLookup, HLookup or lookup. So if you can, you should always try to use XLookup. Okay, let's say if we put a value which is not over here, I'll just put in my name. Let's see, what do I get? Oh, right, I put in a data validation. So probably we'll have to remove it. If I want to just remove this, any value. Okay, now let's try. Okay, so not found. So XYZ Limited does not have me listed on their item list. Okay, and let's try to use this again with the vertical table XLookup, the lookup value, the lookup array. Again, the price is switched, so not a problem for XLookup. Would have been a problem if we were using VLookup or HLookup. And again, fixed referencing F4. Okay, perfect. We can try to use something else. Book shirt. Okay, will give us the correct value. So that completes all the examples of VLookup, HLookup, lookup, and XLookup. Okay, before we conclude, let's look at a few of the advantages of using XLookup instead of the traditional lookup functions, VLookup, HLookup, and lookup. So like I said before, XLookup can be used for vertical as well as horizontal lookups. It can be used in any direction. It doesn't matter if the price is before or if the price is at the end. It can be used every which ways. It can be used to find an exact match as well as an approximate match. Another pretty interesting thing is it can be used to find matches with wildcards. So let's say you have a line. It has a particular word. Let's say the word is shirt. So it can even be used to find that particular word in a line. So okay, and besides that, it can be used to search in a reverse order, like I already explained with the search mode. It can also be used to return multiple values using a return array. So let me show you this. Let's say if we wanted to return values from A to C. So for the return array, we'll just put in a C. So this is what we get: the price, the category, as well as the item. So this is also a pretty neat advantage of XLookup. It can also be used to search with multiple criteria. So you can use multiply and various other functions to select multiple criteria as well. It also has the not found feature. You can put in anything. Let's say you want it to show a fail. If you put in fail in not found, it won't show NA. Instead it'll show you a fail. So that's also advantage. And a huge problem with VLookup and HLookup was if you deleted any columns or rows in middle of it, you'll find that the function does not work properly. That's because we always used to put in the row number or the column number in VLookup and HLookup. So 1, 2, and 3. That's not a problem here. So even if you delete anything in middle, the formula would still work. And finally, like I said, the efficiency on XLookup is much better than VLookup and HLookup. You'll notice it if you are using a huge or a big data set. So that's a wrap on all the examples, and just let me know in the comments if you want a detailed explanation of all these advantages and the optional things on XLookup. The match mode, the search mode. I can make another video for it. And that's all for today's Excel adventure. Remember, Excel can be a powerful tool to make you more efficient and effective in your tasks. If you found this information helpful, please hit the like, share and subscribe button. Any other Excel mysteries you want us to unravel? Let us know in the comment section. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, keep excelling.